This is a podcast recording for Third Sector Collaboration Week. Third Sector Collaboration Week aims to raise awareness of collaboration and the different methodologies or approaches that can be used to develop new partnerships. The week will also demonstrate the power of networking as well as how collaboration can lead to greater innovation. Each day of the week focuses on how collaboration can deliver on key Scottish Government policy areas. These include procurement, community wealth building, climate action, COVID recovery, and we'll also be looking at international examples of collaboration. The week is being organised by Partnership for Procurement, otherwise known as P4P, with support from Social Enterprise Network Scotland and a number of place-based and thematic social enterprise networks. P4P supports social enterprises and the wider third sector to develop new partnerships, building capacity on collaboration and helping to increase the number of enterprising third sector organisations successfully bidding for contracts. This podcast features a discussion between myself, Neil Young, and Brendan Rooney, who is the Chief Executive of Healthy and Happy Development Trust, one of the members of the South Lanarkshire Chief Officers Group, which is the collaboration that we'll be discussing today. So firstly, hello Brendan, and thanks for agreeing to take part in today's podcast for Third Sector Collaboration Week. How's your day going so far?
Hi Neil, nice to see you again, and happy to be part of it. Yeah, going so far, going well so far. So let's get see what the next half an hour brings.
I'll be easy on you, I promise.
I've heard that promise before.
So firstly, can you just introduce yourself, and it's your opportunity as well to speak a wee bit about Healthy and Happy and what work you do.
Yeah, so my name is Brendan Rooney, as you've mentioned. My Sunday title is Executive Director for Healthy and Happy Community Development Trust, and I'm also the chairperson for South Lanarkshire's Third Sector Chief Officers Group. Quick bit about Healthy and Happy. We are a community-led development trust based in Cambuslang and Rutherglen, South Lanarkshire. And it's our plan, vision and determination that Cambuslang and Rutherglen will become the healthiest and happiest places to live in Scotland. Now, we can't do that by ourselves, so we have to ask for help. So we ask residents, we ask communities, we ask colleagues from a variety of sectors, partner agencies of all shapes and sizes, local businesses, and we'll go nationally and internationally if we have to work out together solutions for making our two towns the healthiest and happiest places to live in Scotland.
And you guys get involved in quite a lot of stuff because you've got Bike Town, you've run a radio station.
I think it's a podcast in its own right, that one, Neil.
I know, I've seen it in action as well. I've visited the radio station, I've seen it.
Yeah, I mean, lots of really good people doing brilliant work, both volunteers and staff. And yeah, community radio station to a bike shop and Bike Town to mental health work to good old-fashioned community work and all these groups and millions of things in between.
I know, tons of stuff in the lovely building as well that you're based in. Yeah. So can you tell me about the Chief Officers Group? So you mentioned that you're the chair of the Third Sector Chief Officers Group in South Lanarkshire.
Yep, I am indeed. Essentially, the Chief Officers Group is, as it says, a group, a collection of chief executives or lead officers, regardless of title, who either operate in South Lanarkshire or are based in South Lanarkshire. And we're very much part of the third sector interface structure in South Lanarkshire. That's known as VASLAN. And VASLAN very much support the work of the Chief Officers Group, and vice versa. The Chief Officers Group very much support the work of VASLAN and very actively promoting the value, benefit, added value of the third sector.
Okay, yeah, and why was it formed?
Probably a couple of reasons actually, but really quite fundamentally important ones. So it was for the first time to bring together a group of people who've got such a vast range of knowledge, skills, experience, and a real passion for our sector and the work that we do. There's also an opportunity to unite our sector and to bring in a values-based integrity either back into the sector or bring to the fore of our sector. And I guess overall it was to place our sector in a position of leading rather than being led. For too many years, our sector had been diversified, fractured, divided and conquered for all sorts of reasons. That's no one else's responsibility but ours. This is our sector. It's our responsibility to put our house in order, and that's exactly what we have set out to do, and we are doing.
Do you think that as a kind of collective, you have more of a voice to then speak to partners and public sector? And
undoubtedly, and I'll touch a bit more on that as the podcast develops. But yes, absolutely, and it's a united voice, which is really, really important actually, because it's such a diverse sector, as you know, and our organisations and our work comes in all shapes and sizes, and that's okay. But there are common threads that bring us together, and this group has been a great opportunity to bring, as I said earlier, such a vast range of knowledge, skills and experience to present and represent our sector. So very much so.
And presumably you have worked with your partners before. Is that right?
Yes, but not in this way. In this way. With some of the organisations and various organisations will have worked with each other, typically on a needs-led case-by-case basis. That could be on a theme or a topic or a piece of work or a piece of funding that brought us together, or we share common aims and common work at certain points, but not in this kind of coherent way that we're now doing. So a bit of it, yes, but mostly no.
Right. So is there partners kind of around the table that you actually haven't really done that much work with in the past?
Many of them, yes, because I think the useful to know a bit about South Lanarkshire, quite a diverse local authority, from massively rural to semi-rural to semi-urban and some very large centres of urban population. So it's quite a diverse, possibly not unique in any way in relation to local authorities, but the statutory agencies generally divide it into 4 localities. And there would be no occasion or need at times to work with organisations in different localities, but in actual fact, from our experience, actually, again, there's lots of common challenges, lots of shared opportunities and challenges that when we talk to each other, share them, work together, actually, it makes such a positive difference. So no, typically, we wouldn't have worked with organisations we might have been aware of, we might have attended meetings and so on, but no, this has brought a different perspective and a very welcome and positive perspective.
Okay, no, that's great to hear. What are the longer term objectives of what you're trying to achieve?
Yeah, I mean, we're quite clear about it, actually. I'm pleased to say it's taken its time to be clear, of course. Our mission is to inform, inspire and influence. And there's 3 main areas. Strategic engagement would be the first one, and building relationships across the sectors, within our sector and across sectors. Being alert and keeping ahead of the game in terms of the context in which our sector operates, and that's always changing. Policy changes, societal changes, and many other changes. And being involved in processes and planning, not just sometime down the line, as much as we possibly can, to be involved in the design of process and planning as well. So strategic engagement would be the first area. Strategic commissioning and income, and working together to influence and shape these really important agendas for our sector, and to share information across the sector. And I'll touch a bit more on that later on. And finally, the third main area or aim that we have is to be collaborative, to draw together consortia, and be open to partnership as well. And again, I'll touch on that in a few minutes' time.
Okay. Is there a particular model that you've adopted? So, I mean, this is always for P4P. This is always something that interests us quite a lot, and it's an area that I work quite closely with organisations or clients of ours on, is assessing the different potential models and then hopefully passing on that knowledge, and organizations will then adopt a particular model. But how do you see it kind of working for you guys?
Yeah, again, we've been through discussions over the past few years. We've explored several different models, and we're going to continue to do so. We recently formed a consortia to bid for the UK CRF fund, and that was unique and bespoke to that particular fund. I'm pleased to say that South Lanarkshire Council included that particular consortia bid within its bid to the UK government. And many of our organisations have got experience of consortia and experience where consortia has worked really well, and experience where it's not worked quite so well. So we've been quite clear to keep a flexible and iterative approach rather than building hard and rigid. It depends on the work that needs to be done. It depends often on the income opportunity. Is it contractual? Is it a grant type based? So really, we've been really clear to try and keep we have a preferred model, and we've used that model and it's working. But we're trying our best to explore a range of models for different circumstances and to keep that flexible and iterative as well.
So is the idea that if you were looking at either kind of applying for a particular fund or bidding for a contract, that you would have a kind of a different lead organisation depending on the opportunity?
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. And again, we can adapt. The preferred model is adaptable, and it can change, and it may even depend on how large the contract or the income opportunity might be, how many organisations might be involved, and getting those anyone who expresses an interest, making sure they're involved from the beginning. In the design, and that's essential that they are. To express an interest is one thing. To be a silent sleeping partner is not something that works in our model, and we're very clear and explicit about that. If you wish to join us to develop that bid or that consortia or bid and consortia, then you need to be an active partner. And each partner can influence how that bid is developed or worked up. And therefore the shape and the approach can vary, on a case by case basis. There is a model there from which we can build on, use, plagiarise, and adapt.
Great. Is there like a particular agreement that members have to sign up to yet, or is that still in development? Or
it's developing. Yes, there is. Yes, there is an agreement, but it's developing. It's less formal in its nature at the moment. But I think as we progress and if we achieve our ambitions to deliver that significant scale in South Lanarkshire, then we foresee and probably intend that that will become more formalised. To reflect the nature of the scale in which our sector is delivering. So we're aware of that. We haven't got to that point as yet.
And is there any kind of features of your partnership that you think makes you kind of unique in comparison to other collaborations of maybe similar type organisations or geographical kind of consortia?
Yeah, I think probably yes. I reckon, and I reckon the very fact that we have brought lead chief officers together and united this group of stakeholders in our sector or in South Lanarkshire for the first time, I think is quite unique. Actually, very refreshing, very positive. I think the high levels of trust and good relationships as a consequence of coming together, I think is quite unique. If I read the sector, and I know the sector, having been involved in the sector since 1991, I think one of the other things is some of the softer side of it, but really important. We understand leadership. We're all leaders, and we talk about leadership. We understand power and how power is distributed evenly or not, or fairly or unfairly. And we talk about it to each other, but we also talk about it to our statutory colleagues and statutory partners as well. We know how we want to lead. We know how we should lead. And our values are critical in that. And we bring our values to conversations internally and externally all the time. And again, I'll touch back on that a bit later. So I think are they unique? I think to a degree, yes, they are. It's certainly unique in South Lanarkshire. I'm sure colleagues in other parts of Scotland will be doing some similar things. But yeah, I think they're probably some of the unique features I can think of just now.
And do you think that model could then be replicated potentially elsewhere, or?
Definitely, and should be. Again, each area, each grouping will, take it and make it their own as it should be, and we would happily share our experiences. If any colleagues across Scotland or elsewhere, we're keen to learn on the work that we've done. But yes, very much so.
And I can imagine in quite a lot of areas, you probably get the situation where third sector leaders would be maybe a wee bit precious about funding and a bit reluctant potentially to share information because they might be competitors for funding, or perhaps due to like a maybe historical even disagreement that is
all of that, Neil, absolutely all of that, and we that was the case in South Lanarkshire also. But actually, the sum of the whole was so much greater than the parts. That actually, by coming together, I mentioned integrity at the beginning of the podcast, and I think that was something we recognised very early on, that we all have integrity, and we wanted a shared integrity for our sector, and no longer should we or can we step back and expect Scottish Government or the community planning partnership agencies or anyone else to put our house in order. It's up to us to put our house in order. And that's a really important, that was a really important reason why we came together. And as leaders of third sector organisations, it can be quite a lonely position at times. It's certainly a very complex and challenging position at times. And why wouldn't we share with colleagues who are experiencing what we're experiencing, and bring that together and harness that power, positive power that we've got, or that we can develop between us, for the good of our organisations, for the good of the work that we do, and of course for the good of the citizens that we support.
So I think accountability seems to be coming through quite strongly there, based on what you're talking about, is wanting to be accountable yourself.
Very much so. Very, very much so. Yep.
Is there any, as you've been, obviously I know that you're still kind of in development, but is there any particular challenges you've had to overcome?
Yes.
It's an interview question, isn't it?
Yeah, no, there's been many, and it wouldn't be a surprise, I'm sure, to anyone listening. So yes, there has. I think building trust and relationships, it wasn't easy, and there was, and it alludes to just what we talked about. There was a fragility. This was quite uncertain territory for us in earlier days. So that was definitely a challenge, and of course we're all very busy. And whether we're as busy as we actually think we are, or we actually are as busy as we believe that we are, and that giving up your time to come together in a new grouping, and making sure that has value, it offers added value, and so it was uncertain territory, and building up trust and relationships would definitely be one. Interestingly, or perhaps ironically, in the midst of the biggest and craziest period any of us have ever experienced, aka the COVID pandemic, we came together so well. We really did. We supported each other. We increased our meetings from monthly to fortnightly. We were sharing ideas. We were sharing intelligence of what each other was doing across the 4 localities. Working with the council, helping the council and the NHS and other Scottish Government and others by sharing intelligence of what good things were going on or what was missing in certain areas, and so on. And it was such an exercise in peer. If ever I've seen peer support in action and being so positive through that pandemic period was it and happened. It just happened, and it was excellent. And I reckon it was the cement that really brought us together in a more meaningful and positive way. It really, our group absolutely became alive and was born fully by that, through that pandemic.
And I think we're hearing that with other groups as well. It seems to have had kind of the opposite effect for some people. I mean, the pandemic has maybe helped focus some people and brought people together that would not have worked together, but it's also equally some partnerships have kind of fallen by the wayside or been abandoned. So it's kind of it seems to have had differing effects for different people.
Yeah, and I can understand that actually for all sorts of reasons and complexities in there and so on. And interestingly, you've reminded me of a challenge that we encountered prior to anyone even hearing of the term COVID-19. And it was the first time we encountered a significant disagreement in how we should approach a common joint income issue. Mm-hmm. And this wasn't helped by a very well-intended but poorly thought-out input from a senior statutory agency officer. What we did, though, was we used our values as a compass to steer us through really quite difficult terrain because we didn't agree on how we should approach this matter, both strategically, tactically, and operationally. But we used our values. It could have been the rock that our group perished on, actually. But in actual fact, we used the values to as a compass to steer our way through it, and we're definitely stronger for it. And our values are respect, integrity, inclusiveness, and commitment.
So one of the key themes of Third Sector Collaboration Week is COVID recovery. So it's always the elephant in the room just now. So how do you think the Chief Officers Group will enable communities in South Lanarkshire to recover from COVID? And I can imagine it's really at the essence of what you're hoping to achieve just now.
Yeah, definitely. Well, very much so, actually, because our organisations are highly connected to our communities by their very nature and by our very design. Most of them, if not all of them, are community-led, community of interest-led organisations anyway, and certainly by the work that we do. And we help to give a voice to communities, and that is needed now more than ever, undoubtedly. And I think we have and we can influence and steer Scottish Government and the community planning partners to what communities really need and what they really want, and to make sense of a policy maze. Now that was pre-pandemic, during the pandemic, and post-pandemic. And policies and good intentions are one thing. Action, money, and local democracy and local inclusion are quite another. And we can make that happen, and we can help to facilitate it where we can't make it directly happen.
And do you think that collaboration will be important to recover from COVID?
Oh, essential. In fact, mission critical in my view. And that's within our sector. That's across all sectors. Absolutely mission critical. We have to. And why on earth wouldn't we?
No, I completely agree. And from now, for the Chief Officers Group, what are your kind of future plans? Where do you go from here?
Well, we've got a number of them actually. I mentioned earlier about delivering at scale, and we are absolutely intent on delivering at scale through a variety of and various consortia and collaborative approaches. We're speaking to local authority in NHS Lanarkshire and the CPP about that right now. We're working with Scottish Government and statutory agencies to solve the perpetual drama around core funding, core income. We need steady investment to support our organisations and our work. And linked to that and directly related to that is we are part of a redesign of commissioning in South Lanarkshire, where we're really actively seeking to put communities and community benefit right at the centre of commissioning. Why did we have commissioning in the first place? It was to improve public services. So let's improve public services with communities right at the centre. And therefore, a redesign of commission to make community and community benefit actually happen. We're also setting out to improve the image and the perception of our sector and positioning ourselves as a genuine partner who can deliver at scale to a high quality and who should be in at the start of any planning and design process, not just part of a supply chain and not down the supply chain. We are in at the start, we're helping you design and we're helping you to really make an impactful decisions around how services should be designed, how commissioning should be designed, and so on. And finally, I guess, to build a high level of trust, respect, and great relationships within our sector and across sectors.
Thanks for that. And to finish us off, I was wondering, what advice would you have for other organisations which are considering working in partnership or developing a consortium, perhaps which is similar to yours?
Do it and don't hesitate. The sum of the whole, as I mentioned earlier, is so much greater than the parts. It's not the Scottish Government or the Council or the NHS or anyone else who's responsible for our sector. We are. Leave any egos outside the room and you'll be amazed at what you can achieve together. There's plenty of need and plenty of work for us all, and your organisation will not lose out. It will benefit.
Wise words. Thank you very much, Brendan. So that's all we have time for. And thank you again for taking part in today's podcast. And remember, there are plenty other videos, social media graphics, and podcasts to check out as part of our Third Sector Collaboration Week. And you can get involved using the hashtags Collaborate to Innovate and Third Sector Collab Week. That's number 3RD, not THIRD. Thank you.